So Don't Worry, Darling, for Florence Pugh and Harry Styles.
Right.
And have you watched it?
Yeah, I watched it.
Oh, you watched it?
Yeah, I loved Stepford Wives, so I was all about it.
Oh, did you like it?
It was worse than Stepford Wives.
Yeah.
But I liked the vibes
of
it because I like creepy things. Wait, did you not like it?
I was medium on it.
Okay.
I liked it more than I thought I would because I'd kind of heard it was like not that good.
Yeah.
And then when I watched it, Florence Pugh exceeded my expectations as she always does.
Yeah, yeah.
Harry Styles was maybe better than I thought because I heard that one of the big weaknesses was his acting. And so he did better than I thought, but he still wasn't amazing.
He wasn't a superstar. He was not a superstar. Yeah.
No. And then I think, like, to me, like, afterwards, as I was digesting it, I was like, I think Olivia Wilde thought she was making a really profound point here. And I don't think that it was that profound.
I think,
you know? Like, Florence Pugh was and then her, like, I get what she was. Oh, sorry, spoilers. To me, I could just picture Olivia Wilde being like, "Ooh, yeah, this is like really gonna hit," and it just doesn't.
Have you ever watched the Stepford Wives? Like,
and it's good. It's good.
The original one, not the sad one. With
Nicole Kidman, right?
No, that's not the original one.
Oh,
Nicole Kidman version is a really sad version of it. Like,
really
I
have not watched the original one.
The original one is from like forever ago. Like, I want to say the 70s or something.
Okay.
I used to have it on VHS. I got it at like Goodwill. And it had a lot more of the vibe that Don't Worry Darling did, because it was more of like a thriller-esque. Where it kind of had this deep, unsettling feeling throughout the whole thing. But the storyline in Stepford Wives was still pretty, in the remake with Nicole Kidman, was still pretty similar to the first one. It's just that they made the ending happy, but it wasn't supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And Don't Worry, Darling, like, I totally, like, I agree with you. I think she was like, oh yeah, I'm going to take Stepford Wives and I'm going to make it this like really intense statement about the current state of the world. And really I was like, you know what? It was pretty good, but it was just the Stepford Wives.
Yeah, like it wasn't anything different. And I just don't think it was as smart as she thinks it is.
Yeah. It wasn't like how Get Out was a better version of Stepford Wives. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. They also used Bing in Get Out.
I did notice that. Oh, you have to notice that. Because they also use the Surface books and shit. And she's like, it's like, you know she's a psychopath when she opens her Surface book and she bings something while eating dry cereal.
Well, because, you know,
it's like
Apple doesn't
psychopath.
let evil villains use iPhones. Like,
really?
Did you know that? Yes. Apple has like this thing that they don't let their Apple branding be used by the evil people. And if you watch like so many shows, it's actually a hint in a lot of them with the fact that ones are using Androids and others are using Apple.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. And then sometimes.
That feels not real.
It's real.
Look it up.
Look it up.
Look it up. Look it up.
It's real. I know it's real.
Apple won't let bad guys use iPhone in movies, says Knives Out director. That's wild.
Yeah, I read it when I was reading fun facts about Knives Out. That makes sense.
All right. That was a good intro. I liked that. That was fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we chat?
Yeah, let's chat. I'm Bridgette.
Uh-oh. I don't have it pulled up yet. Wait. I'm just on this Verge article. Okay, here we go. Go one more time.
Hi, I'm Bridgette.
And I'm Maddy. Welcome to Baddy Breakdowns, where we hang out, have fun, and play games all the way to the end. Today, we're going to talk about Horizon Zero Dawn. We'll give you the breakdown from its creation to its critical reception, and then we'll take you on a deep dive into the game as we share our own experiences and opinions while playing it. We'll close with if we recommend it, who we'd recommend it to, and last but not least, our personal rating. With that, let's kill robots.
Did you make that up on the spot?
I did. I forgot to write one. Was it super obvious?
I could tell.
With that, let's trek to All Mother and...
This got worse.
and discover what happened to our world.
Yikes.
Okay, I'm going to try one more. With that, let's leave our tribe and find a new world. No.
Devolved.
These are bad. These are all bad.
How about let's play?
No. The first one was good. I'll keep the first one.
Okay.
So, game description. Experience Aloy's legendary quest to unravel the mysteries of a future Earth ruled by machines. Use devastating tactical attacks against your prey and explore a majestic open world in this award-winning action RPG. That's good.
Yeah, that was
I
really
liked
good.
that.
That was good. That was
That
a good
was good.
write-up. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
How it's made?
Yeah. Go
Yeah.
for it.
So for How It's Made this time, I once again lucked out and got a documentary. Yay.
Yay.
As per usual.
As per usual, Bridgette's always watching the documentaries.
So the documentary that I found was another no clip.
Okay. I love no clip.
Yes. And it was an hour and 7 minutes long.
Wow.
I know. I did not actually make my way through all of it.
Proud of you.
Mostly because I started watching it about an hour before you were coming over here, Maddy.
Yeah.
Because it turns out that Horizon Zero Dawn is a really long game, and it took almost all my time. But with that being said, I did watch it. So some TLDR, just high level. Horizon Zero Dawn was made by Guerrilla Games. They are located in Amsterdam.
Oh,
now,
cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And their one main game before Horizon Zero Dawn was Killzone.
Mm-hmm.
I had heard of Killzone a little bit because Killzone was supposed to be that competitor for Halo.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, that's why it was made. And they actually touched on that a little bit in the documentary, that they were this little itty-bitty studio. They were like 30 devs or 30 people. And they knew that they needed some funding in order to make this game actually happen. So they said, hey, I think Sony would probably need a first-person shooter to compete. Let's go and ask them. And Sony did. And so they're like, yeah, sure. And what turned into this little like small budget thing they were just going to do, they pretty much made it a AAA title, and Sony gave them a lot of funding, and they created Killzone with that. Okay. So they had created this Killzone. Killzone was pretty lukewarm at the beginning, and then they made a bunch more because some of them were successes. And about 10 years after they made the first Killzone, the whole team was like real freaking bored. Like, yeah, I think the word that they used was they were in a creative fatigue. Yeah. I kind of read about this when I did the critical reception. Okay. Yeah. And so when they got to this point where they were a little worn out of doing the same thing over and over again, they especially called out the dark, gritty environment of the Killzone franchise and how that was something that people didn't really want to sit and spend time in a lot because of the nature of the environment. And so one of the things that they wanted to think about was, how do I make a game that people just want to spend time in? And as a part of that, they were like, oh, open world, that's kind of a fun mix of that, something that's not as dark, things like that. Yeah. So one of the things I really, really liked about how Horizon Zero Dawn came about was, so the whole studio decided that they wanted to do something. Yeah. In 2010, they decided to have these pitches that the whole studio got a chance to pitch for. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so it wasn't even like one like creative, anyone. Literally anyone. Okay. Yeah, I could just come and bring these ideas forth for them to consider. Fun. I know. And one of the things that the documentary had mentioned was it was because the culture in Amsterdam and in the culture in Amsterdam was very much so around equality and making sure that everyone had a voice and everyone was treated as important as a part of the company. Yeah. And they wanted that to hold through the whole process, so everyone got a pitch if they wanted to, which I thought was super cool. So they got 40 pitches, and of those, only one was a shooter. They said that there were some with a lot with gunplay.
Yeah.
But there was only one, like, first-person shooter because it was pretty clear that everyone was tired. Yeah, they were done with it. They didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And of the 40 pitches, the documentary is pretty funny. They didn't actually go into what those pitches were because they still use them as seeds for other games that they're thinking about making.
Cool.
They still, like, pull stuff from them. So they wouldn't tell us what the other ones were, but obviously the one that got picked was seeded as this open world game of a girl that was super interested in the past history of her world.
That's broad.
Yeah, it's very, very broad. And they had actually even mentioned that the pitches all varied in kind of detail. So some were just mechanics, some were settings, some were, blurbs like that. But all of those pitches went together, and that was one they were like, hey, this sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
So they went down this path to make Horizon Zero Dawn, and we haven't gotten into it too much just yet, but Horizon Zero Dawn is very much so this, like, your Neanderthals almost, like, in this very early quote-unquote world, but there are these big machines that are everywhere that kind of take the place of the animals, is kind of the setting. And that was where they started a little bit here. Not exactly there, but that's kind of where they started.
Mm-hmm.
And they started working on it. And then a second game was announced that literally sounded almost identical to it.
Oh.
Yeah, like almost identical. And so they dropped it. They're like, we're just not going to make it. And they decided instead to pick up a different game, which was pretty much Killzone. Like, they didn't say this in the documentary. They said it was a little safer, quote unquote. But they said it was a shooter. They said it was gritty and dark. And I'm like, so you just decided to make a different version of Killzone. But anyway, they started working on that. And about 6 months into it, it was time to actually bring the pitches to Sony for them to sign off on their next game and the thing that they wanted to go tackle. So they had been working 6 months on this thing to actually be able to bring it to them. And literally, like, a few days before, the team was like, we don't want to pitch this. We want to pitch Horizon Zero Dawn. Like, why did we get rid of it? We really want to pitch it. And so some people were very, very against it. Some people really wanted to do that. And they decided to just pitch both. So they pitched both. And when they pitched both of them, the people in the room were like, well, that one sounds way more compelling. Horizon Zero Dawn sounds way more compelling. I want to do that. And that's what they did.
Yeah.
So they dropped the other one, even after 6 months of work.
What was the game that was just like it?
I don't know if they ever released it. They did say later in the documentary that in order to make Horizon Zero Dawn, it was around the time period of PS4 just launching.
Yeah.
And it was also open world. So everyone was super nervous about this being the first game that they brought out into PS4 because they were like, wow, this is going to be an effort. So they actually built two games at the same time, one which was a version, I think, like another Killzone, and used the same engine as the one that they used for Horizon Zero Dawn. And then after they shipped the Killzone, they branched off and finished Zero Dawn. So a couple other fun things that I enjoyed them mentioning was they talk specifically about the machines. They originally had this concept of these military industrial machines that were very Killzone-esque, very like, fancy military, big things. And one of the reasons that they pivoted away from that into the kind of, not junkers, but like they were very rudimentary machines in the final end game, was because they said while you fought these things, you felt a lot like a soldier. Yeah. And not like a hunter. And they wanted you to feel like you were hunting.
More like a hunter.
Yeah. And so they actually mentioned, I know that this intellectually makes no sense at all, that you're out there hunting with a little bow and arrow, like shooting these old junker, like super advanced machines. But they're like, it emotionally feels right. Yeah. And I love that. Like, that's so fun. Yeah. We kind of talked about, I don't remember, I think it was Lara Croft who talked about that dissonance between the gameplay and how you feel and all that kind of stuff. So when they said that, I was like, oh, that's interesting, because that's why it didn't feel that way. But it's cool.
No, that's super interesting.
The other fun fact I'll mention is because they had been doing Killzone, they didn't actually have any narrative or quest directors. So they had never done any of that really before, and they had to hire those out new. The narrative director was John Gonzalez, and he was the lead writer for Fallout New Vegas.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I recognize like elements of. Yeah.
Yeah. I really loved Fallout New Vegas. So when hearing that, I thought it was fun. Oh,
I've just watched DK play it.
Oh, it's really fun.
Okay, I'll play it.
He said one of his biggest struggles was in Fallout New Vegas, you have to embody the person. Like, you make your own person, and then the environment, like, you are yourself in the environment.
Yeah.
And in this game, you are Aloy.
Yeah.
And he said that was one of his biggest, like, mountains that he had to climb. And I think, like, the last thing I'll mention two more things, and then I'll close it up here. There's a lot of really fun stuff I really liked. So last two things. One of the things that John did when he came over is they had a lot of these examples of Aloy running around on a horse. Mm-hmm. And he was like, no, screw this. I am not putting horses in this like narrative. There's no large animals. There can't be large animals. And everyone was like, what are you talking about? Look at all these cool mechanics of Aloy riding around on this horse and shooting stuff. Like, we have to have horses. She's a hunter. And he's like, listen, if Aloy can ride a horse, everyone can ride a horse, and then she's not special. So she has to be special. So that's why, like, when you bring in the mechanical horses and she's, like, one of the only ones that can ride them, it gets that special feeling while still having that horse hunter kind of feel, which I really liked. Yeah. And then the last little thing, which I think will ease us pretty well once we get started in the story section, is the beginning of the story was totally different. And I can mention that a little bit when we get there.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's all I got.
Yeah.
Reviews.
All right.
Critical reception. So
it was very well received. I don't think that is a surprise. It's got an 89 on Metacritic and an 8.4 user score. So not like top tier, but still good.
It should have been higher.
People really enjoyed the combat against the machines and having to really think and like use different techniques, and also enjoyed the open world as like being a fun thing to explore. Mm-hmm. And then people generally also liked the story, but then had like nitpicks about the story.
Do you know what those nitpicks were? Will we talk about them later?
Yeah, let's talk about them. Because I like I said, revisiting, I think I have different thoughts than I did when I first played the game.
Oh, we didn't mention that again this episode, did we? This was my first time playing.
Yeah, but I've played this game like 6 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was like one of the first gamey games that I really played, and I loved it a lot. Yeah, so it's been fun to kind of like revisit it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't fully play it again. I just partially played it and then watched like a very extensive story review. Okay, back to their critical reception. The negatives that were common was that they didn't love some of the side characters. Thought they were kind of like shallow or like not needed.
Yeah.
And then the other one is like anytime you had to fight humans, like it was kind of boring.
Yeah.
I found a quote that I thought was funny. Horizon Zero Dawn is a fascinating premise wrapped in a tortilla of tropes. So I thought that was kind of like, and it was still a positive review. Yeah. Like that review was positive, but I thought that was like an interesting way to put it, of like a really interesting story that maybe has some like issues. It was nominated for all of the Game Awards, Game of the Year, Best Direction, etc. But 2017 was when Breath of the Wild came out and Persona 5 came out.
I see.
So it lost every category that it was nominated for to either Breath of the Wild or Persona.
That's a shame.
Cuphead also came out that year.
Oh, that was a star
and
year.
Undertale.
Oh my god.
It was like a big year.
What a year. Yeah. What a year.
It was a really big year for games. It came out on PC in 2020, and so it does have reviews on Steam that I wanted to talk about. It's very positive on Steam, not overwhelmingly positive. Most of the negative reviews thought it was too long or like drawn out.
Okay.
And then also, you know, as always with PlayStation ports, it seems just like complaints about it.
Like bugs or issues or
not being optimized, and the PC port just not being that good. There was still like lots of positive reviews. I'll read some of the two funny ones that I picked out, one that's more negative and one that's more positive. The one that's more negative is very straightforward, but just Horizon Zero optimization. So people just not liking the PC port, not being optimized. And then the second one is the sun came up over a mountain as I was looking up to scout out some glintox. I literally raised my hand to my forehead in real life in an attempt to block the sun's rays. That's how immersive this game is, or how dumb I am. Either way, you should buy the game.
I love that so
that
much.
one is a really good one.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Good for them.
So that's critical reception.
Well,
right.
Do we want to dig into it?
Yeah. Let's go. Do you want to talk about your first impressions?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I had a few first impressions this time. The first one was it was a super beautiful game. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Breathtaking. Really, really pretty. Second one was the world building out of the gate for me was really, really good. I am interested to see what critiques you have in general with like the story or what you might have read about others, because right out of the gate, I was like, wow, I really, really like it.
Yeah.
Just because it felt new to me, I think. I don't think I have done a thing that was like Neanderthal plus futuristic machine that was so heavy in the Neanderthal like piece or the non-tech piece, and I really just enjoyed that right out of the gate. I could see it, and they did storytelling really well. Now the counter side of that, and my third kind of little note that I have here, is the intro is very storytelling heavy, and it does the thing that I don't like, where it makes moments that you as the player could be doing a thing and just makes it a video instead.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
They did it a few times, and like I understand a lot of games do this, and I think part of it is who wants to build a whole mechanic for this one little scene? Like that doesn't really scale super well, so I get it. But there were definitely a few moments where I was like, wow, I wish I was the one doing that, or I wish that I could have made that jump or whatever.
Interesting.
And it was just a movie instead.
Yeah.
So that was right out the gate. That's kind of how I was feeling. But I was feeling really positive.
Yeah. Okay. But just like watching a movie a little bit.
Yeah. I actually wrote, I'm wondering if this is an open world game or if it's just linear, is what I had written.
Yeah, because you go through the setup first and then it opens up.
Yeah, because when you're the setup, you play as little Aloy.
Yeah, the initial.
Yeah, and I thought, I wasn't really sure. I had heard about PlayStation's first party story-driven linear single-player games, and I didn't know that this one was open world yet. So that's kind of what I thought was happening.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah.
What about you? Do you have them?
I was kind of thinking about it, and I remember my first impressions back when I originally played it. So this was probably, if memory serves, it was probably my third game that I had played. My first one was BioShock, which I loved.
Such a good one to start with.
I know. Thank you to my boyfriend DK. He like bought me like the game for Christmas that year, because he was like, I really think you would like games, like if you just give it a shot. And then Spider-Man was the second one that I had played, and I also really loved it. And then Horizon Zero Dawn was the third one, and then God of War was the fourth one. So I was like, it was because we had a PlayStation, so it was all like very PlayStation heavy. I just remember one being excited to play like a female like driven or like a female fronted video game, and then also being really interested in the premise like you, right, where it's like this, you know, that something has happened because it's almost like you're back in time but in the future,
but also future time.
With the machines. I just thought the premise was really interesting, and they did have like the difficulty settings, which at the time for me was really crucial. So I got to play it on easy, which I think was like a really crucial part of my experience too, being positive, like that the game allowed you to have that. So
Wait, did you play it on the easiest setting?
So I think it's like easy, normal, hard, like very hard. So I played it on easy.
Okay.
I remember. I did the same thing with BioShock, and then on Spider-Man, it was like Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man was like the name of it.
That's such a cute name.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And then actually this game got me better at video games, like as I was playing it. Because even on the easy, you have to use your techniques and stuff, right? For like the different machines, which we'll go into. But yeah, that's like kind of what I remember about like playing it.
Yeah, that's fun. This game reminded me a lot of Skyrim, which was in the same vein of one of my earlier real game games. I shouldn't say real games. There's a lot of games that I had played before then.
That's why I'm trying not to say, I don't know how to say it, like gamey games is what I was saying, but I don't know.
It's like the typical AAA.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's how I would say it. And Skyrim was one of my first typical AAA games, and this one reminded me a lot of that. This one, in this case, though, one obviously was a lot newer, so it was a lot more beautiful, and the story was way, way better, but the gameplay reminded me of that a lot, and it was kind of cute and nostalgic in that way for me.
Yeah, that's nice. Okay, cool. So how we're going to talk about this game is I'm going to read a summary of the plot, and then we're going to talk about the story.
Right.
And then we'll talk about the gameplay, like mechanic-y stuff.
Yeah, we'll dive into the gameplay mechanics, the things that we like, didn't like, the storylines we like, characters, whatever. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. All right. So I'm going to read the plot. I don't know how good this is going to go, but we're going to try.
Am I allowed to make commentary while you read the plot?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Okay. So where the story starts is Aloy is a wee little baby and starting off
that
strong.
Is that what you read?
No, I'm adding force to it.
I love it. Okay, keep going.
She doesn't have a mom, and the tribe that she is from, or appears in, is kind of run by three matriarchs, quote unquote. And the matriarchs are freaked out by her and say that she's an outcast and a curse because she doesn't have a mom. She just like appears one day, and they give her to Rost, who is also an outcast.
Yeah, also an outcast.
And Rost is the person that brings her up. And how outcasts work in this society, in this like tribe, is when you are an outcast, you can still be around, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
But they can't talk to you, or they're like not supposed to talk to you, essentially.
Sad.
So you're just there, and you can talk to them, but they're just like not supposed to talk to you.
Yeah.
When she's a little girl, she's like running through the forest and finds some ruins. And when she goes into the ruins, she finds a little triangle technology thing on a very old dead body, and it's called the focus, quote unquote, that she puts on, and it kind of highlights things and also can interact with the old ones, quote unquote, that they call it technology.
Right.
And
it's kind of like augmented reality a little bit. Yeah.
And you can watch like hologram scenes with it, and it can highlight like paths that machines have taken. And so she gets it as a young girl, and then she runs into some kids, and then they're mean to her, and she's like, I don't understand like why people are mean to me. And Rost is like, well, we're outcasts, but eventually you'll be able to, like, when you're older, there's something called the proving that you can do in this tribe, where you essentially do like an obstacle course. I don't know how else to describe it.
That's entirely correct.
And then once you finish the obstacle course, you're like proven to be like worthy of being in the tribe.
It's a very young adult novel.
It is. And I actually like genuinely like this, and so I feel like as I'm reading this, it sounds really sarcastic and like I wasn't enjoying it, but I do enjoy this game.
If you look on my bookshelf over there, it's like 90% young adult novel.
Yeah. So now it kind of shifts into a montage where she's prepping for the proving with Rost, right? And they're like training, and it's bum 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 bum. They're doing it, and then finally the day comes and now you're like actually like playing.
Mm-hmm.
So she's older now and it's about to be the proving. And you go to do some fetch quests. Essentially, you learn how to craft ammo, and then you walk into the village to go to the proving, and then Rost says, hey, once you're proven to be a member of the tribe, I can't talk to you anymore, so love you, bye. And she's like, wait, no. And he's like, no, bye. And then
also accurate.
And then while she's doing the proving with other teenagers, the proving is attacked by a different tribe and almost everyone dies. And Aloy almost dies, but then last minute, Rost comes out and saves her. And then Rost dies. And then the matriarchs take her into the mountain and they tell her that there's a corruption, and they grant her with the title of Seeker. And when you're a Seeker, that means you get to leave the tribe and go explore and like come back.
Yeah.
Whereas if you weren't a Seeker, like you're not really allowed to like leave and come back.
Yeah, the tribe is like super religious.
Yeah.
Super religious.
So now she's a Seeker and she's going to go find the people who attacked them and like cure the corruption. She fights with a machine that is able to control other machines. And then once she kills it, she finds an override device and attaches it to her thing. And then that's how you're able to do the override so that you can have friendly machines.
Yeah, because wasn't there a point after the proving where everything was massacred, and then after she wakes up, the whole tribe was also massacred by one of the corrupted machines.
Not the whole tribe.
Not the whole tribe.
She gets the override device. Now she can override and like make machines her like friends, I guess.
Yeah, which other people can't do.
So now she goes to the city called the Meridian, and she learns about Karja soldiers. And I'm trying not to get too into the weeds here because I think it's just going to be confusing.
Yeah.
She meets someone named Erin, and she learns that Erin has a sister who is thought to be dead because of the Karja soldiers. And then when they investigate it together, because she has her focus, she finds out that, hey, it wasn't the Karja soldiers. It was actually your own tribe that kidnapped Ursa. And then she actually isn't dead. That body is a fake body, and she might still be alive. And the Meridian city has a king who is the Sun King. And once they bring this information back to the Sun King asks Aloy and Erin to go find Ursa. They go find Ursa, and they, fight some people and find her. And she says the plan is that people are going to attack the Meridian, and then she dies.
Which I actually didn't realize she had died. I was just an idiot. I probably pressed A too many times.
Probably.
And then I had to search if she was dead.
And then in that moment, you also meet a baddie named Derval, and he uses a device that attracts machines. So the other thing that you do in Meridian, once you do this kind of weird side plot
it's
with
weird.
that information that I think is maybe not necessary, you go to a lodge, and in that lodge you can start doing other like quests and stuff to get promoted. And like when you get promoted as rank, like it's just a way to like upgrade your character. Back to the main story, you learn that the Karja soldiers are also known as the Eclipse Cult, and they've been listening to a machine that is talking to them named Hades. She learns that she needs to go to a place called Maker's End, which is where I forgot to mention that one of the other things before is when she was in the mountain, she saw an older woman that looked a lot like her.
Ooh, yeah.
And so that's part of the mystery that she's trying to solve, is she's like, is this my mom? Like, who is this? And she knows she has similar DNA and that her mom is important because that's why a bunch of the technology works for her.
Right.
Is because she has the DNA of this like older woman that she doesn't know. So she like had captured a Karja person, and he was like, no, don't kill me, spare me, and, go find more information at this place called Maker's End. So she goes to Maker's End and trying to find out, like, who this older woman is. And when she gets there, she finds a bunch of these Eclipse cultists who are trying to reanimate a huge machine called the Deathbringer. And she also meets Hades there, who is just like this like red technology ghost orby thing. Yeah. He's not a ghost, but
he's not a ghost.
He like floats.
He's a weird technology orb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's just a mad
dude.
Mad dude.
He's just peeved.
he mad about something. And once, you take down the cultists and the Deathbringer, you start exploring the Maker's End facility. And that's where you start to unlock like holograms and unlock more of the story. And you learn that this older woman is someone named Dr. Elizabeth Sobeck. And walk in and it's like, Dr. Elizabeth Sobeck, welcome back. You're late for a meeting.
Yeah. By like a bajillion years.
By a bajillion years. And she goes into the facility and finds out that she was late to a meeting with someone named Ted Farrow. And then it shows a scene of Elizabeth Sobeck and Ted Farrow talking about how the war machines that they had built had a glitch.
Right.
And the glitch was going to destroy humanity. And it was kind of too late to fix the glitch. There wasn't a way to do that.
Yep.
And so Elizabeth Sobeck started developing plans for a project called Project Zero Dawn. And then that's kind of all you get at that time. The next thing is you meet someone named Silence.
Yeah.
And
you had heard him before then.
You had heard him.
In your ear, weirdly.
Yeah. And now you like meet him, and he's also trying to kind of like uncover this like mystery with the machines. He says you need to go to a place called Gravehorde. And so you go there.
Great.
Yeah. There's like fighting and stuff in between all
We're
of this.
Skipping
like,
it.
Always. So then once you get to Gravehorde, you start doing the same thing and you learn that in the past, humanity's fucked. But we're going to do this project, and the military says, okay, well, we need to buy more time. So we're going to arm the people and just give them a whole bunch of weapons so that they can try to kill the machines, but it's not going to work, right? It's just buying more time.
I was going to say the other things that you learn in that facility to kind of follow that storyline is they have sent people out to fight these machines for time, and everyone else that knows about Zero Dawn is very much so running this race against time to finish whatever Zero Dawn is, because we still don't know. And one of the darker parts of the story happens around here because you realize that all the people working on Zero Dawn, once they know the real fate of the world, can never leave.
Yeah.
So you are stuck there. Like, they have picked you, they've pretty much kidnapped you off of the street, and they said, here's what's up. And then you could choose to either off yourself or stay a prisoner forever or work on the project. And it gets pretty dark. Pretty dark.
Yeah. You need to go to find the like main Eclipse base. And you have to disable the comms that they can't talk to Hades anymore. And Silence is telling you this, and then you start getting a feel of like, dude, sketch. Because why does he know this? And once you get there, it's kind of like he kind of set you up to fail here. And Aloy like does end up narrowly escaping and does destroy the comms, but it also makes Hades really pissed, and he says, everyone kill Aloy. And then Aloy enters the facility for Zero Dawn. And that's where you really like kind of crack the story open of like what happened. And you learn that humanity essentially was completely rebuilt in this facility, and that they worked on these robots that essentially terraformed the world.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a main robot called Gaia, whose job was to kind of rebuild the world after everything died.
Well, did we mention the machines, the way that they keep running is by eating like biomass?
Oh, yeah. So that's why it's like, okay, everything biological is going to die.
Yeah, because they're just like inhaling that shit to keep going.
Once there's no more biomass, Gaia's job is to like rebuild the world. And so then they build these other machines that each have different purposes. So like that's when you start learning that the machines that you've been running into have like actual purposes, which is really cool. Like the alligators are like cleaning the water, which I think is a really fun reveal. And you also learn that Hades is a reset button, and that there was also another like branch off of Gaia called Apollo that had stored all of the knowledge of humanity that got lost. When you're in the facility, you see where like humans started getting repopulated, because there's like schools and stuff in these like underground, or not underground, but like in mountain.
They're usually in mountains,
mountain
concealed
facilities, And you also learn that because Apollo was lost, the humans don't really know what to do because they don't have any knowledge, and they're running out of food in these mountain facilities. And essentially they're like, okay, well, we have to just go out and like like go out of the mountain and be. And so that's why humanity is like back into this like tribal society, right? Where everyone has like different tribes, and there's not really a ton of knowledge about the past.
Right.
Because they kind of had to just, for survival reasons, leave the mountain, and they didn't have the knowledge that Apollo had left them.
Yeah. The fact that they survived at all is amazing.
Yeah. So the next thing that you do is you learn that you need to restart Gaia Prime to shut down Hades.
Yeah.
Because Hades wants to like kill everything, even though he doesn't need to. So you learn that Gaia Prime made a clone of Elizabeth Sobeck to try to help like save, like protect against Hades.
Yeah. And it was pretty creative because it had to be a clone, because the only way that anyone would be able to get in any of the tech doors is if they were as high access as Elizabeth Sobeck, which is so fun.
Yeah. Right after that, so you have to go do this like bitter climb is what it's called to Gaia, to like restart Gaia. And you see a final like meeting of the alphas. Elizabeth Sobeck has to like go out into the world and like fix something, and she like accepts her fate. She's like, hey, the program is working. I know I'm gonna die here. I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna fix it, and I know that I did my job.
Yeah.
After that, there's like this final meeting where people are kind of like grieving over Elizabeth Sobeck. You'll have to maybe fill in some details here because I wasn't quite following, and I think it's because I didn't get the context that like was in the full story. And I do remember this, but Ted Faro essentially is saying like, I think that humanity sucks.
Yeah.
And I think that we shouldn't have, like, I think we should just start completely over. And that's why he's the one that deletes Apollo and the knowledge, and then kills all of the alphas.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, the gist that I got was his motivation was, I fucked up everything. If we give them this knowledge, they're just going to do it again. Which I don't know. We can talk about if we agree with that or not. But that was his POV.
Silence found and... Oh, okay. So then you also learn that Silence actually was the one that found and released Hades in the first place.
Yes.
So he's way more involved than you originally think. And he definitely lied to you, but he's still a good guy. In a way. He has
very selfish motivations, and if those motivations lead him to doing the right thing, he does them, but it's not for the good, it's for himself, I think.
Yeah. And then you have this like final battle at the Meridian City, and you kill the person who killed Rost, and you hold off the attack, and they win. Yay.
And then Hades lives.
Yeah, that's like the very last scene is like a little bit of Hades is like flying around, and then Silence like captures it.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of the ending.
Dun dun.
Dun dun.
Very cliffhanger.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Whew.
You did it.
I don't know. That was way long. I don't know how that's going to work.
We'll see.
Okay. So there's the plot summary. It was supposed to be short, but this plot is long. Yeah.
Do we want to talk about like our favorite pieces of the story?
Yeah, let's do like what we liked and then what we didn't like, and then we can talk about game mechanics.
Yeah. So for the story specifically, I actually really liked the general story of it. I guessed that Aloy was a clone before she was a clone.
Look at you.
I know, because the percentage of DNA was just too high, and the voice acting of Elizabeth was the same character as Aloy. Her voice was the same, and I'm like, why would they have done that? Even if it was her mom, she'd have a different voice.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I was pretty proud of that. The things that were rough for me, I think a little bit is, and you kind of touched on it as you were walking through the storyline, is some of the main quest felt like a side quest that they put in the main quest.
Yeah.
And as someone who was attempting to finish this in less than 2 weeks for this podcast, I was like, why am I attempting to do all this other stuff that isn't answering the things that I wanted to answer?
Yeah.
Which was the origin of Aloy and the history of the world, which was super interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you feel the same way? Because you kind of mentioned it.
Yeah. So I think I'll also like my approach to video games is really different than it was like back when I originally played this.
Yep.
So when I originally played this, I think my attitude was more, I'll take like, I kind of loved long games. Like I liked being in worlds for a long amount of time.
Yeah.
Even if the story didn't necessarily need it. Whereas now, like, now that I'm working and like we're busier people in general, I start to get more critical of stories that feel like they are too long just for the sake of being long.
Yeah.
And I feel like when I wrote all that down and like reacquainted myself with the plot, I was just like, this could have been shorter.
Yeah.
And revisiting it, it's just, yeah. It could be more succinct, and I think it didn't need a lot of the, like, side quest-like things in the main quest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would also say, other criticism I had, the way that they gave the story was very much so, I don't even remember how many things that you had, but you do things like find little voice recorders, and you find notes and all that kind of stuff. And you've got a large amount of them, like quite a few. I want to say more than 40. I don't know. It's a lot. And you get some at the beginning of the game when Aloy falls down and finds her little focus.
Yeah.
And you get a handful of them. And then I was expecting to find more like trickled throughout the environment. But really, the game delivers this story in like a few set locations.
Yeah.
So story is not really scattered. Like the history of the world was not scattered throughout the world while you played. It was just revealed in those few set locations. Because it's in these
like old ones, like facilities.
Yeah. And I loved that. Like, don't get me wrong. But when you mix that with the gameplay, what happened when I got into those facilities is I was so interested in this story is I would literally sit there. I would not play, and I would listen to the recording, and then I would move to the next one. Some rooms had like 7 or 8 in there, and I loved the story, but I really wish it would have been scattered throughout the whole thing instead.
Interesting.
Because it was rough on me to just sit there and try and pay attention to one and then the other and then the other. I wish they would have trickled it out so that I could have listened to one while I continued exploring and then found a different one and listened to it. Like, I wish that would have been measured better, I guess.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I do really love the stuff with like the old ones, and like that's obviously, I think that's like really the strength of like this whole, you know, franchise now, I guess, because there's a second one, is like the learning about that. I don't know what it is about people. I feel like it's just our nature to like be interested in like, how are we gonna die? You know what I mean? Of like, how are we gonna get doomed?
How do we do it finally?
Yeah, like, how did this happen? And kind of exploring that, and like how how we recover from that. So I think that is when it's the strongest. And I think like there are characters that I agreed with some of the critics, right, of saying like, maybe we didn't need all of these side characters.
Do you have which ones you didn't wish were there?
Just when I was reading it back, it's like, I know that Aaron is like fun, but like I don't really know why like Aaron and Ursa really exist. Even the Sun King, I'm like, did he need to like really be a big piece of the plot?
Yeah.
Probably not. Yeah, just needed like
trim.
Feels like it could just be edited and be
tighter.
This like, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's the different attitudes when you're playing it. If you're like, I want to play this game in a shorter amount of time, I think it makes it stand out more.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Versus when you have time and that's the kind of thing that you're wanting, like, that's fine. Like, I'll give another example from a different video game, like God of War, Ragnarok. Like, one of the things that I've heard is that people are like, oh, it's just like the same thing as the first one. But DK like loved the first one, and so he loved the second one because he just wants more of it.
Yeah.
So I think like
just different
it's just
strokes.
Different. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's fair. I think so. I was attempting to speed run this like game because
pretty
it's
massive.
Long. Yeah, it's long. I think I ended up finishing the main storyline in about 39 or 40 hours. Like it was quite a few hours, and
it's a full work week.
It is. Yeah. I'm the kind of person, I still haven't finished Skyrim. I've put hundreds of hours into Skyrim, and I still haven't finished the main quest line because I'm the person who does every single side quest.
So you had to like let go of that with this game.
It was actually really hard, and it was very counterintuitive for me to let go the side quests and then to see side quests baked into the main story. So I was like, well, at least I get a little of it, I guess. But I wish, I think it was because of the way I was playing, I wish that they would have just pulled that out into its own really big side quest storyline. That was like this hero side quest line that you could have done. And at the end, one of the things that was super cool that I missed out on that I'm really sad about actually is when you do the final battle, the side quest people that you
They come help you.
And I only had fucking Teb. We didn't talk about Teb. Teb is just this, I don't know, he's this nice dude, he makes clothes, whatever. But I literally only had Teb and then the default people that were there. And I like in that moment,
I forgot about that. That's a cool moment.
It is a cool moment, and I just wish that, like in that instance, Aaron very well could have been one of those companions that come in, and it would have been a fun, like, huge storyline to have that without it like breaking up the flow of you attempting to discover the history of the world. Because I do feel like it hurt the flow a little bit, and they also did it in a fork fashion. So you could technically skip parts of the errand storyline, do other parts of the actual, like, main storyline, and then you have to go back and do errand stuff. So it's a little, I don't know. I think it could have been a side quest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But do love that story.
I do.
In general.
Yeah.
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 And I do remember thinking some of the side quests were quite fun. I remember from when I was playing it, like stumbling on them and like rescuing like little different like tribes and stuff and like getting to learn about them.
My favorite side character was that psychopath Nil, who he kills bandits, and it's framed in a weird way, like, oh, he's just trying to save his friend and kill the bandits. And then afterwards, he's like, no, I just need to, like, get my murderous rage out. And
so I do it by killing bandits.
Because nobody gives a shit if they die. And I'm just like, whoa, no.
Yeah.
But I actually liked the side characters, the ones that I saw. So I'm actually planning on going back and playing more.
Oh, good.
So that I can play more of the side quests, because I am that kind of person. But I liked the ones that I saw.
Yeah. Any other standout things?
For the actual story itself, I'll say that a lot of the characters were a-holes, and I'd like to call them out by name because they sucked. Mainly, is her name Lancera? She's like the Nora people.
Oh, one of the matriarch that sucked.
Yeah. So you know, all of the Nora people can S my D regardless, because who just has a little baby and then decides that they're just not going to talk to him?
Yeah.
Like, F all of the Nora people.
Yeah,
they suck. And in the final battle, all they were doing is whining about how they're in an unfamiliar land with people that aren't like them and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, eat a dick. Like, literally, the world is ending and you're going to complain to me about this nonsense right now? I'm like, I wish you wouldn't have shown up. Like, you didn't even need to be here.
I could do it without you.
I know. I'd be like, then get out then.
Yeah.
And so all the Nora people I didn't like, but Lanthra, or whatever her name was, is an idiot. Like, literally, she will not shut up. Or multiple times where Aloy has saved the people and still she's like, no, she's gonna kill us all. And I'm like, is she though?
Is she?
Like, is she? Or is that you right now? You
Sounds
dumbass.
like a you problem.
Yeah. And also Silence is creepy.
Yeah, he is creepy.
Yeah, which I think was the point.
I'm really interested to play Forbidden West. Like, I'm wondering.
Oh, you haven't played the second one yet?
Mm-mm.
Oh, I just assumed that you had.
Mm-mm.
We'll
I think it's a
sometime.
PlayStation 5, and I don't have a PlayStation 5.
Oh, I do now.
I know.
Because I made some choices.
I'm going to have to buy one because Spider-Man's going to come out, and I'm going to have to play that.
Yeah.
But
Did you have any other standout moments for story?
I just remember really thinking that, like, the Ted Faro scene was, like, really, like, I was like, oh, shit. Because the way he kills the people in the room is he, like, sucks the air out of the room and then they all suffocate.
Yeah, that was
And
intense.
I thought that was, like, wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also wasn't expecting it at all.
Yeah,
I thought
neither.
Apollo was a corruption and that was going to be it. So
yeah. The other thing that, and maybe because you played it, you caught this, but one of the things is, like, do you know what started the glitch?
No. So I actually had that later as, like, plot holes. And I don't know that it's actually a hole or if they're going to answer it in the second one.
Oh.
But yeah, because in the story, it mentions a mysterious signal is sent and then it kind of makes things start to go haywire.
Oh.
And they never address what the actual mysterious signal was. They never mention whether or not Gaia was actually restored. Like, you kill Hades yourself because you get the override. Well, you don't actually kill because they're still alive, but, like, you get the fancy override, master override switch and F up Hades. And then theoretically the next step after that is to make Gaia, like, get everything back together again and have her be alive and stuff. But you don't know if she did that either. So my hope is that that's addressed in the next one.
Okay.
But I don't know. I had it as a plot hole.
Okay.
There was a moment where Ted, right before he kills everybody in his, like, big speech, I wrote this down. I was so mad. He was like, the blameless men... ... And then he's like, and women. It was like this really long break, and I'm like, burn, Ted!
Burn!
Like, someone killed Ted! I'm like, imagine being stuck for the rest of your lifetime in these underground mountain cells with, like, a coworker, Ted, who you fucking hate.
Yeah.
And that's just who you're stuck with. I'm like, the fact that he didn't get murdered is amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing. Yeah, I remember him really sucking.
He sucks.
Okay, do we want to talk about the mechanics?
Yeah, let's do mechanics.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, the main mechanics are you have a bow and an arrow.
Right.
And you kind of unlock different types of arrows. You know, it has a skill tree, like a bunch of these, like, open world RPG games.
Yep.
Where you can, like, specialize in different types of combat. I guess, like, my main thing about the mechanics that I really loved is just how, like, you had to use your brain a little bit more than I'm used to, like, doing in these types of games. Because each of the machines has different weaknesses, almost like Pokemon.
Yeah.
And, like, different types of arrows that you can do and, like, different spots that you can hit. And you have to be, like, pretty precise, and you have to combine it with, like, sneaking. And I just really enjoyed that aspect of the gameplay.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I would like that you said that too, because one of the lines that I had was, usually I'm the kind of person that doesn't take advantage of all of the mechanics that a game gives you. So, like, for example, this game had traps. It had, like, that rope thing where you could, like, tie down a thing. It had trip wires. It had the, you know, like, the bow and arrows, the bombs, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And normally the way that I would play and the way that I tried to play at first was I just played with a bow and arrow. I didn't really do anything else, and I changed the arrow types, but that's like all I did. And you're right that the complexity of each of the machines, the difficulty of each of the machines, is it really forced you into figuring out how to optimize to use each one of those. At least in my opinion, it did. And I really like that because usually a game doesn't make it so that I kind of have to do that. And
like
not,
you can usually like brute force your way through it.
Exactly. Yeah. And this one I really just couldn't do that. And I really enjoyed it. I never really used traps or bombs or anything. And here I was, literally that's how I won the final battle, was just a million traps and bombs and a couple arrow things, you know?
Yeah.
And it was fun. Like I like that.
Yeah, me too.
So I will say I was a little disappointed in the merchant mechanic a little bit. Okay. So there's a bunch of merchants, like a ton of merchants around the town, and I kept expecting there to be a bunch of different variety of stuff there, but it was pretty much the same stuff every time. Not always. Like it changed a little, but it was pretty much the same thing. And that was to me a little boring and sad because every time I found a new one, I was like, I found one, and then it was just the same thing.
The same stuff, yeah. Most of the upgrades really came from like scavenging after you like killed the robots.
Yeah.
Although, do you feel bad now that you know that the robots have a purpose?
No, they were corrupted. They have.
Yeah.
You know.
Some of them were, not all of them were corrupted.
I guess that's true. You could make them friendly. I made some friendly. I did do that. I honestly, I mean, you know me, we've talked about this before. I snuck past almost every single hard machine that I possibly could.
Like the Thunderbirds or whatever?
Okay. So a Thunderbird, I fought one time because I thought it was a Glint Hawk, and then it wasn't. And I used about every single resource that I had in order to fight this thing, every single health thing that I had, and I still almost died, so I sprinted away as fast as I could. I hit it with a rope, and then I sprinted away. And I never killed it. So I never actually killed a Thunderbird.
And then the big T-Rex one? Is that this one?
Which one? The Rock Breaker? Or
maybe I just remember like stumbling upon like it's like in the desert and it's just this like massive thing.
Oh, there was a
Did
few
you ever find that guy?
So I found one that was I do think there was one monster that I maybe never found. But the one that I was thinking of in the desert was the one that burrowed underground and then popped back up, and it was giant.
Oh, yeah. Thunderjaw. That's what I was talking about.
Oh, the Thunderjaws. Yeah. I think I fought one Thunderjaw, but I don't know that I fought it again. I actively avoided them at all costs, which made it hard to upgrade sometimes because you needed the stuff. Yeah. But I couldn't find them.
That's so funny.
So hard.
Yeah.
And so I used my skill of sneak to do everything I could. Every single time we ran into a bunch of people, I almost never got into a combat battle. I was just shooting like headshots and hiding in grass. That's what I did. That's how I play.
I love it.
The last thing for mechanic I'll mention very briefly is that climbing sucked and I hated it.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah, I mean,
the worst.
You couldn't like climb on anything. You had to like look for like the stuff, like the orange like spots.
But it wasn't always orange. Sometimes it was this weird white chalky dust on a rock. Mm-hmm. And I have this hilarious clip. Okay, I forgot to record my gameplay for like 90% of this. And at some point, I am outside of a mountain on a very steep cliff. Yeah. And in my ear, like I just finished the main quest part, and in my ear, Silence is like, Bridgette, make sure you don't fall to your death. And literally as he is, not Bridgette, but as he is saying that,
you fall to your death.
I fell to my death.
That's
I was
so
trying
funny.
to jump on a rope, and apparently that rope wasn't the right rope I was supposed to jump on, and I just plummet. And so like my body, and I was like, if that's not the biggest explanation for why I didn't like it, is I felt like there wasn't direction for how I was going to do it. Yeah. And I was just kind of, I know they were trying to make it feel natural or something. I just hated it.
But it didn't have enough guidance. Yeah.
No, I hated it.
Yeah. Do we want to do the wrap up?
Do I want to do the wrap up? I want to say yes with a final closing thought.
Okay.
Which is everyone hit on Aloy.
What?
Literally everyone hit on Aloy.
Really?
Yes. So at the very beginning, Errand dude clearly is hitting on Aloy. He's
Really?
like, you want to come hang out in Meridian?
Really?
Like, clearly hitting on her. I wrote down, why is he hitting on me? I don't understand. And then later, the Sun King hits on Aloy.
Really?
Literally, he was like trying to replace her with the other really strong woman that he was in love with. And she was like, I don't think that's appropriate, bro. And so clearly, again, hitting on her. And I'm like, what's going on? And I've made this joke like multiple times in my notes. And then at the very end, in the final battle, Petra is standing there with a giant cannon. And once again, Petra hits on me. And they actually comment about the fact that you're flirting in the middle of like this war zone. And I'm like, why is everyone hitting on Aloy? But they did. Everyone did. Everyone did.
I don't remember that. That's so funny.
Yes, they did.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
She's just popular.
Very popular. Yeah.
She's cute. She's a redhead.
Yes, the only redhead apparently in this entire town. Yeah. But I was just so surprised. I was like, oh, haha, this person felt like you were flirting with, oh, that person, oh my God. Okay, everyone's flirting.
Wow. Aloy can pull.
I guess.
Yeah.
I guess they like strong women here.
Yeah.
In which case, support.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you recommend it?
I definitely recommend it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there were some flaws, some things that I think that they could have done better. There were some things that felt kind of like a waste, like we didn't talk about it, but they had dialogue options with like brains and hearts and
But that didn't go anywhere.
Literally did nothing.
Yeah.
Some of the plot lines I do feel like were more side questy plot lines. But with all that put together, I actually really loved the gameplay for the most part. I loved the world building, the environment. I thought Aloy was a super badass.
Yeah.
After playing Lara Croft and having to talk back and forth about like, was she a good representative of stuff and all that kind of thing, I really felt like Aloy really was. Like, Aloy was a slam dunk. I thought she was great.
Yeah, I agree.
And all of that together, definitely would recommend. I would probably give it a 4 out of 5, I think, for me.
4 out of 5 what?
4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 glint hawks.
There you go.
There, I'll do that. 4 out of 5 glint hawks.
Yay.
I considered a 5 because I really enjoyed it. I liked it more than I liked The Last of Us.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the storytelling. But I think it wasn't the perfect game. I'm excited to see what the second one was.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, I do really love this game, which is why I'm glad that you played it. I think it has like a special place in my heart. That's a weird thing to say about a video game, but like it ends up like having a special place just because it's like one of the first like really good video games I played. So I think I am going to give it true to like how I felt after I played it the first time, which was like a 5 out of 5. Thunderjaws. I don't know.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, I recommend it. I recommend it to people who want to get into like a open world story based game.
Yeah.
I would maybe just like caveat with like take your time, and I think you have more fun.
Yeah,
because I think like unfortunately like because you were like squeezing it into the podcast, I think that might have like not in a bad way, but I think that might negatively impact the experience because you just like are trying to get it done.
Yeah.
When I was watching this like hour and a half long YouTube video about the plot,
you were
today,
like,
this morning, I was just like, like, come on, like, let's get it going, guys. Like, do we need to do this for?
I think that's fair.
Like, I think that's why it's like revisiting it in that way. I was like, oh, like, I wonder if I was playing it in that setting, in this setting, I would have felt differently. And I think I would have, but I'm glad that I didn't. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I still really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I did do some side quests because like I was targeting, I think I read online that the how long to beat for that main storyline was more like 32 hours. And so I played
a little longer than that.
I played an additional like 8-ish hours on top of that. So I did do side stuff and I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. There were some times where I was kind of like, man, they're just kind of making this drag along a little bit, aren't they? And I don't know if I would have felt like that if I wasn't pressured.
Yeah, like if you remove the time pressure from the experience.
With that being said, I don't know if I ever would have finished it if we didn't have this podcast, not because I didn't really like it, but because I'm really bad at finishing main storylines, because I usually give up about half the way because I play all the side quests. So in that way, I am thankful.
There you go. Yeah. All right, so on topic section.
Woo!
Yay! Okay. So this on topic section is going to be about the Redfall game. So if folks had listened, Redfall was my #1 most anticipated game.
It was! I forgot about that!
It was I knew it was like a big swing. I knew.
Oh, man. And you even played the early versions of it, and you still swung hard. You trust in our company.
I loved the original trailer for it so much that I think I was just holding on to this idea of like a Twilighty kind of like co-op fun game where you fight vampires with your friends.
Yeah.
And that's just... Anyways, so for folks listening, the next game that we were going to play, it was Redfall.
We've had it on the calendar for a long time, like months.
But we kind of decided that we didn't want to play it because the game came out and we kind of, because we're employees of Xbox, we had a little preview of it, but we were hoping that when it actually released, it would be better than the preview that we played. Doesn't seem like it was much better than the preview that we played. And it's not even bad in a fun way,
which is a shame because I love bad fun things. That's, to me, totally my piece of the pie. I love it.
Yeah, like the combat is just kind of like super unbalanced. The world is pretty empty. It's pretty buggy. It's just not that fun.
I saw those screenshots of the same dead body in the room multiple times.
Yeah, it just feels like really like unfinished.
Feels like a video game instead of like a world.
Yeah, and it's a bummer and it sucks. And I know that I feel bad for the team in a way. You know, I mean, I don't know.
It's hard to work on something for so long and then have it not come out the way that I'm sure that they envisioned or had hoped it would be.
Yeah.
I am hoping, and this is literally just my own hope. This isn't any insider shenanigans. I really promise. This is just my own hope. Is I had heard that Sea of Thieves was pretty bad when it came out too. I am really hoping, because Sea of Thieves, if you haven't played it yet, like I love Sea of Thieves. We should sometime. Okay. It's really fun. It's one of the games that I play. When we start streaming, we can do that.
Yeah. You have to play Phasmophobia with me.
Yeah. And you then can see me scream and run away. Yeah. But Sea of Thieves is super fun. Like, it's just fun. And they did a whole Pirates of the Caribbean themed edition, which my dog is named Captain Jack. So that was everything to me. Cute. And I'm really hoping that the team will continue to refine and work on it and we'll get that Sea of Thieves fun eventually from it. Yeah. And I'm probably going to hold off until it seems like they've made some updates and some things on that. And then maybe we can do an episode on it then if it does that.
Totally.
And, but a little disappointed that we're not going to do it, but...
We've got another really fun game that we're going to do. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for listening to our podcast. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe and rate it. Please, please, please.
Please.
You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Baddy Breakdowns. Also Twitch, but we haven't done anything there yet.
One day.
But we will. And visit our website, baddybreakdowns.com, made by Bridgette Keene. One of my dad's friends said that he loved your website.
Oh, that's so cute.
It was really cute.
Thank you, Maddy's dad's friend.
I will give a little credit to myself for like helping come up with like
the
aesthetic. Yes. But you really did the work there and made the vision come to life, and it's really awesome. The podcast art was done by Tanisha Vernicar, and the podcast is edited by me, Maddy Wisnat. Join us next time to hear us two baddies break down Tears of the Kingdom.
Ba, ba, ba.
We probably won't be able to finish it for the episode, but that's okay.
Yeah.
We're still going to do it.
We're still going to do it. Yeah.
Yay. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.